Hello, everyone. Hope all are staying safe. It is very important at this point of time. It's a bad patch of time in the life of the people all over the world, not here alone. Anyway, glad to meet you all once in this one. It's possible that we can have interaction over Zoom as well if you have the time and technology to download that in your mobile or in your laptop. Anyway, I'm just giving you some of the tips what you need to have. In fact, introducing certain topics for you. This details will be taken by Sanoop sir. I'm just introducing the concepts. In fact, your paper is on tourism products and resources. You know what is a product, right? Product is something that can satisfy the needs of a consumer. So it can be tourist, can be anyone who is purchasing a product. Certainly, some people will be having some kind of needs when they go for uh, buying something. When it comes to tourism, it's a kind of feeling or an experience what they get when they consume the product. When a person is going for a tour package or is going for a beach tourism or something, what is getting maybe kind of relaxation. And relaxation would have been a requirement for or a need for that tourist before reaching the place. So that could be the reason why he visited the place and he is getting the kind of experience. In your second module of your syllabus, certain types of tourism are introduced. So my task is to introduce those uh, different types of tourism before you. The details will be taken by Sanoop sir, but I'm just introducing the concept. The book titled Tourism Concepts, Impacts and Strategies will be giving you more details, and Sanoop sir will be giving you further notes. Maybe he might have taken some of the portion, but I'm just introducing on a video platform. First of all, the first point is actually the difference between leisure and business tourism. You must be knowing the concept of leisure. Leisure is basically free time, and whatever you can engage in a free time, we call it as recreation. So tourism is a kind of recreation activity. There are different kinds of recreation activities. For example, reading is a recreation, going for playing is a recreation. Plenty of recreational activities are there. So leisure tourism is something that can give you pleasure when you go for something. When you travel to some places, and this kind of tourism is basically for pleasure, getting pleasure, happiness, and all. So leisure tourism is basically the movement for the travel for the purpose of leisure, or we can say happiness or pleasure. The opposite one is actually business tourism. Business tourism is actually people traveling for certain business purposes where they are not earning money directly, but ultimately the purpose is part of business, but they may not be engaging directly in business activities. For example, a person in traveling for attending a meeting or a conference, it can be called as a business tourism. Sometimes they'll be traveling for getting training, for getting their business skills enhanced. That is also kind of business tourism. So the ultimate difference between leisure and business tourism is the purpose. The purpose for leisure is basically pleasure, whereas the purpose for business tourism is taking part some kind of activities connected to tourism, which are not directly leading to earning money. Then we have the next point, that is mass tourism and leisure tourism. Mass tourism and niche tourism. Niche. Mass tourism is a kind of tourism that we usually see in the destinations like Singapore and sort of places where large number of people are coming. People in large quantity will be visiting. So that is why we call it as mass tourism. Whereas niche is just opposite to that one, where only a small number of people will be traveling, where they'll be traveling since they have certain special interest in that particular visit. Niche tourism is a kind of special interest tourism. That means small number of people will be traveling, where the small number of travelers will be having certain common characteristics. Primarily, that commonality is connected to the interest in that particular travel. For example, those who are traveling to Antarctica, they may not be traveling large numbers where only few people will be traveling, and the travel to Antarctica would have been especially interest for those people. That is why they call it as niche tourism. Niche represent that special interest. There are certain other kinds of tourism are listed in that one. For example, cultural tourism. You know what is cultural tourism? People has been traveling for various cultural related, seeing various kind of cultural related things. For example, heritage, monuments, historical sites, visiting Taj Mahal, visiting the monuments in Rajasthan. All these come under the category of cultural tourism. There are plenty of cultural tourism types. In fact, monuments related, historical related, anthropological related. Plenty of things are there. Then comes indigenous tourism. Indigenous is connected to the original people of the place and their cultural features, heritage, heritage remains, cultural remains, and all. So indigenousness is connected to that of very specific to that of particular place. For example, visiting Wayanad and seeing the cultivations in Wayanad is also an indigenous tourism, whereas visiting the tribal cultural and art forms is also kind of indigenous tourism. Taking part in Ayurveda tourism is also an indigenous because Ayurveda is part and parcel of the culture of that place. Then comes ethnic tourism, that is also of similar kind, where we would be visiting certain people and their cultural features and other things, where those people are the indigenous people of that place. For example, visiting Australia for interacting with tribal communities in Australia can be called as an ethnic tourism. Ethnicity, that is the ancient culture, whatever that has been prevailing, we can call it as a part of the ethnic tourism. Then what we have is actually film induced tourism. Film induced tourism is actually certain people will be traveling for the seeing some places that are connected to movies, films, cinemas. There are some places where films are shot. Shooting will be taking some places, and people wanted to see the places where, for example, Ramoji Film City. Many people will be visiting Ramoji Film City because they have certain nostalgia connected to some of the movies they have seen. For example, Bahubali is a movie. Some of the parts of the Bahubali has been shot in Ramoji Film City, and we may be visiting that place, and we'll be very particular to visit that particular Ramoji architecture. I mean, film movie architecture, whatever is prevailing over there. Different types are there. Some of the can be connected to places where movies are shot, TV serials are being shot, and many other connections are connected to more film induced tourism. Another one, what you need to learn is literary tourism. Literary tourism is basically visiting some of the places where some of the writers lived, or some of the places where writers have mentioned in their creations like novels or short stories and all. For example, Malgudi Days, R.K. Narayan's one of the famous short story collection. In that one, there is some of the places are mentioned. Whether it is existing or not, that is a different issue. But people will be having a kind of nostalgia to see that place, whatever has been described in those stories and other things. And some people may be happy to visit the place where William Wordsworth lived or Shakespeare lived. These kind of places people will be happy to visit. So all these we can call it as literary tourism. Next one is music tourism. That is also in trend nowadays. Music tourism is particularly of importance in the US and the UK and some of the other European countries, where those who are seriously interested in music, sometimes they will be joining together, they'll be conducting a trip, go somewhere, conducting different kinds of concerts and doing the kind of music activities together. All these come under the category of music tourism. Some bands will be conducting these kind of concerts in some remote locations where people will flock and enjoy that music concert. That all comes under the category of music tourism. Another common thing is actually culinary tourism or gastronomy tourism. or food tourism, all meaning of same same. Culinary tourism is actually some of the attractions, some of the places are visited with particular interest for food. For example, in France, some of the locations are very famous, popular for culinary gastronomy specialities. So people may be visiting those places. And China, they have a very specific food culture. Thailand have very specific food culture. In India also has specific food culture. And people may be happy. Even attractions, tourist sites will be having extra advantage in promoting the food culture over there. So that can be an addition of attraction also. So culinary tourism is in trend nowadays. Another one is actually industrial tourism, where people would be visiting some industrial sites. For example, mining destinations, where mining activities are happening. People would like to see how the gold is being mined, where the gold is taking place, extracted, where how the petroleum is being extracted from the earth. So these places will be visited. In even some industrial locations like Benz automobiles industry site, people would like to visit. So nowadays, these industries are conducting some kind of organized trips for tourists. They can come and see the activities and functions of there. And other things are very common, like adventure tourism. There are some of the destinations are very famous for adventure tourism. That is there all over the world. And another one, what you can learn is in your syllabus is sports tourism. Definitely, sports has been an interest for people for travel. From the time immemorial, many people travel for seeing Olympics, and many people travel to take part in tourism. For example, skiing is one thing where people would like to take part in skiing activities, and they move to some of the locations where snow and ice is in large quantity. So they may be taking part in those. So these are the things introduced in your second module, and the details can be sent in term as text, and some of the notes are also can be given. Sanoop sir will also be giving all the details. So other modules I'll be dealing later. I'm just submitting this for you as a beginning. We'll be interacting further.